Well, good morning guys. Let's see what we have for today. Hello, Dean.
Oh, hey, what's up, man?
What do we have today?
We have a Honda Odyssey.
Okay.
This Odyssey, believe it or not, he's going with that radio. Turn around, check that guy out.
Ooh.
He's buying that radio there. So he's getting the ILX 107 wireless CarPlay unit.
Yeah.
So for all you haters out there, this is a guy that wants one.
That's a van.
What's that?
That's a van.
It is a van. It's an Odyssey. It's a van. He has a backup camera in this mirror, which I'm guessing is not factory because I don't think in 2010 they had that as an option. Plus this looks kind of cheap. We're going to try to relocate that into the radio, so we have to take all this apart and figure out what's going on there. He's not going to retain his Sirius XM, but he does want his steering wheel controls, as you can only imagine. So we're going to use the Pac-Audio SWI-Cp2.
Okay.
So, because this only has 5 buttons.
Mm-hmm.
With the CP2, we can do multi-touch. So we'll be able to program like volume up and down. Mode we can use for push to talk, and then like track up and down we can just do like track up, and then we can use track down as like answer call, end call.
Yep.
And then we can use track or volume down as down and mute. So we can add more features to that, which is nice.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's get to it.
Meet you at the bench. Alright, so the steering wheel control, like I said, is going to be the CP2. We'll talk about that more in a minute. We have the BAA28 antenna adapter. We have the BHA 1722 Honda harness. And then we're going to be using the Best Kits BKHONK 835 Honda Odyssey kit. Each one of these comes with a giant bag of parts. Set this aside and don't put it somewhere where you can lose anything. And it comes with the totally useless quick start guide. Before or after, buried here in this bubble wrap. Now, just in case you haven't seen the video we've done on this, go ahead and check it out. For one, this radio is a new L-shaped radio. Double din in the front, single din in the back. We could call it the new mullet radio. What do you think?
Mullet radio?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Business in the front, party in the back. Now my concern with this new look is going to be attaching it to some of these dash kits. Because a lot of these dash kits are geared up with putting the single din portion of the radio up top in the pocket down below. Typically you would add 2 screws to the top of the mount and 1 screw in the bottom. And this dash kit is going to be no different. So what we're going to have to do is router out one of these holes so that we can put 2 screws in the bottom. Now inside our bag of goodies is the screws. So let's go ahead and get those out.
Whoa, somebody take this radio out already.
I'm assuming that because of the backup camera.
They cut the shit out of it.
Did they? Alright, hang on. You know, there's a certain amount of expectation when you're going to replace a factory radio with an aftermarket radio that it's going to be simple. You know, pull the radio out, build a wiring harness, mount the kit, put it back in. I love it when I see this though. So at some point, what I'm guessing is that this had a system in it to where it had high level to low level and then was looped out to the amplifier. And then instead of fixing it right, they just butt connected all the wires. So now we have 3 butt connectors within 8 inches of wire. Not only that, if you do this, the radio cuts off. So to start out our project today, we're gonna have to remove all this and reattach the harness. Are you excited?
No.
Alright, simple solution. Radio's all set, ready to go. Now, this particular radio, if you notice, there's very few wires hanging off of it. It has just an antenna and a GPS antenna. That's pretty much it. That's because everything else is in this cool bag right here. So let's look at those. So we have a USB cable that is only for updates, and if you want to plug in for charge and doing CarPlay over the USB. You have your Bluetooth mic and mic mount, your main power harness. Now, like we said, this has reverse camera, so this is gonna need a reverse trigger. If you'll notice, like these 2 wires here really long. That's the yellow blue and the orange white. Typically an orange white is illumination, not on an Alpine. An orange white is reverse trigger. And then this longer orange blue is your emergency brake wire. So this would be what would be like light green. You do need a bypass for this radio. You can just use the standard Pioneer micro bypass in order to make it work. And really the only thing you need the bypass for is to get into menus. So if you do want to just hook it up to the emergency brake, because you're not going to be using it all that often, you'll be fine. You have your backup camera, auxiliary input, an iData interface, steering wheel controls, and mic input. Last but not least, your 2-volt preamp output harness. That's right, 2 volts. And of course your GPS antenna. Now the GPS antenna, this doesn't have GPS. This is only made to help the phone's GPS work better. So because it is wireless CarPlay, you may never take your phone out of your pocket. Well, if your phone is in your pocket, the GPS isn't gonna work. This will be mounted in the car so that you can do that. You'll use the radio's GPS antenna instead of the phone's GPS antenna. Now what I like to do is plug all these harnesses into the back of the radio so we don't lose them. So like we said, the steering wheel control interface that we're going to use is the Pac-Audio SWI-Cp2. And what you want to do is download the Control Pro app to your phone. There's a CP5 and a CP2. The CP5 you can actually program from the phone. You plug it into here, plug it into the brain, do everything on the phone. The CP2 you're going to do through a bank of dip switches. The first thing you want to do though is tell it what kind of car you have. Then tell it what kind of radio you have. Select next. Now here it's going to give you the dip switches. On the side of the unit are these little red dip switches. Go ahead and make them match. Now they have arrows showing you which way they're supposed to go. Alright, double check it, triple check it, make sure it's correct, and then what you want to do, put a little piece of tape over it so they don't get bumped or knocked or whatever, and also you know that you've gone ahead and done it. Don't go crazy on the tape because you may have to remove it just to double check. Now select next. What's going to come up is all the installation notes that you have for your car, as well as the pin diagram, so we're gonna go ahead and read this and figure out what we need to do. All right, so according to these instructions, the 4 harnesses, C1 through 4. So C1 and 2 are if you just have the standard radio, which is what this car has. 3 and 4 are if the car has the navigation and the factory Bluetooth, which it does not have. So what we're gonna do now is look at C1, which tells us to hook up the power, ground, and accessory, and then C2 is where we actually tap in for the steering wheel controls. So let's grab the harness. Now I will tell you this about this app, it stays open the whole time. It's not gonna let your phone go to sleep. So there's 2 harnesses that it comes with. This is the one that's gonna go to the steering wheel control. It has 2 wires, it has an 1/8 inch, and it has a blue-yellow. The blue-yellow is for Kenwood and JVC. We're not doing either one of those, so what we're gonna do, we're just gonna cut it short and cap it off. Next, we'll take a look at the main wiring harness. Let's remove all this tape. Go ahead and grab the yellow, the solid red, and one of the 2 blacks. Now there are 2 red wires. One has a red with a white stripe. So you're gonna make sure you get the solid red wires. The other wires we're gonna need is the second black and the all white wire. Now I say all white wires because there's 3 white wires. 1 solid white, 1 red with black, 1 white with red, and 1 white with black. Wascally wabbit.
Together, red.
Now none of these other wires are needed. So if you like to, you can go ahead and remove them, cut them short, do whatever you like. Now I've already got our harness pretty much done except for the 3 power wires. We're gonna go ahead and connect our steering wheel controls to this. Alright, so we're all set with the harness. What we've done is we have this all connected. We have the antenna connected. I went ahead and connected a purple wire to the orange-white wire because the orange-white, I can't help it. I just want to hook it up to illumination. So I soldered in a piece of purple so that I know it is what it's supposed to be. Now, what we have left here is these guys here, which is the steering wheel control, which are sitting right here. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take this little piece here, solder this into the car so that we can remove this whole harness if we need to and reattach it later for service purposes. So let's go ahead and take this into the car. We got our phone. Let's go marriage up some wires. So according to this, in the 20-pin harness, we need pin 6 and pin 7, which is brown and white. So we have the 20-pin harness here.
Yeah.
And the 2 outside wires are brown and white. Black is going to go to the brown, and white is going to go to white. So all we need to do is solder those in. So the Odyssey with the Odyssey continues. That was cheesy. The backup camera, it's factory. Who knew? Not me. So what we have here is a factory harness going to the mirror that runs down into here. It's got a 12-pin harness that controls this mirror. Now this mirror has the dimming feature right here. It also controls, this thing has backup sensors, so they're getting their power from this mirror as well. So there's a lot of things that are going on in this mirror that we need to figure out what this is doing. So we're gonna use two tools. We're gonna use this guy here, digital multimeter, and we're gonna use this guy here, which is our camera tester. Now all this is a test screen. It has an RCA input that we can use to find the image wires. You can do this with any screen. You can use a TV, you can use a headrest monitor, you can pick up a cheap this thing's $100, but I mean you could pick up anything that has, you could even use the radio you're putting in. I wouldn't, but you could. You know, you don't want to accidentally blow up the radio you're putting in. Then what we have to do first is we're gonna probe all these and see if any of these are power. So we've gone ahead and attached our ground test lead to a ground. We set our meter to DC, which is the V with the straight line and dashes below it. Now we're gonna go ahead and probe these to see if any of these are 12 volt. All right, so up top here, we had one that was 12 volts and one that is 8 volts. Now, if you're not writing this stuff down while you're doing it, you have better memory than I do. Draw the plug on a sheet of paper, write the pin numbers, write the colors, and write what you find. It looks like this one here is 12 volts. So now we can go ahead and try to find our ground for that 12 volt. And what do you know? We found it on the first one. Let's go ahead and test the rest of them. Well, now what we want to do now is test this one to continuity. So we're going to go ahead and put it on the thing that makes noise, this one. And we're going to test it to the same ground point. All right, so we have ground. That's a ground. That's a ground. All right, so I'm pretty confident that this one here is the ground. This one here that's testing as ground looks like some form of a shield. We're gonna save that one. That might actually be the camera ground. Now, we know this mirror is activating when we put it in reverse. So now what we wanna do is test for reverse. Put it back to DC. All right, so we found the reverse wire. So what we have now is power, ground, and reverse. Now what we want to do is test to see which one of these is our camera signal. We're going to go ahead and start with that wire that looks like it's a shield ground that has the tape on it. We're going to put our shield ground for our test lead into that. We're going to go ahead and put it in reverse. And we're going to probe the wires that are around it, because most of the time these manufacturers put the two wires next to one another. And there we go. We have the wires we're looking for. Now the other test we want to do is, how does this camera get power? So if we unplug this and we go to back in here, see if we can still get a signal. We don't get a signal. So that means it's something in this mirror is powering up that camera. Let's go ahead and take it out of reverse and let's test that camera lead to see if it stays on all the time. So right now we're not in reverse. We have a camera image. So if you've been writing everything down like I have. So at this point, all we need to do is solder on an RCA for our camera signal. We're gonna go ahead and disconnect the reverse trigger into the mirror because we don't want the mirror coming on anymore. And we're gonna route them down into the dash where our new radio is gonna go so we can have our backup camera in the dash. And because the camera stays on all the time, we don't have to go in and add an external power supply that's gonna be 12 to 8 volts to make sure that he has access to the camera when he's not in reverse. So that's pretty cool. You know what's next? Let's do that. So we have everything all set and ready to go. We have our harness taped back up. We have it all repaired. We have our steering wheel wires here. We have our backup camera wires here. Let's go ahead and plug this in. Go ahead and hook up our reverse wire here. Go ahead and connect the steering wheel wires here. Antenna. All right, we'll go ahead and plug everything in. Microphone. auxiliary, camera, antenna, GPS. All right, so we have everything plugged in. Now what we want to do is turn it on, make sure it works, and then we'll reprogram the steering wheel control. So one of the nice things about the CP2 is that it's pre-programmed. Once you flick those dip switches, it auto sets up for what the most popular configuration is. However, we're not going to do that in this car. We want to reprogram them. For that, you need the instructions on page 4. You just pick your radio out of the chart. Now, what I like to do on ones that we don't do all the time, which in this case is an Alpine, we do more Pioneers and Kenwoods, is I like to cut out just their piece so I don't accidentally look where my eyes like to go, which is always to the Pioneer or to the Kenwood. So we can take this into the car, and as I'm pressing the buttons, I know which one I need to go to. All right, we'll go through the basic setup, select language, go ahead and put on a radio station.
Oftentimes,
test and see if those work. The steering wheel control. All right, we got volume up, volume down, and then, yep, okay. So we're gonna go ahead and reprogram these now. So let's go ahead and remap the buttons. There's a blue button on the side. Press and hold it until the green light comes on. This is also the skip button. Volume up, volume down, press and hold mute. Okay. Preset skip, source skip, track up, skip track down, skip power, skip enter, skip band, answer call, press and hold end call. Okay, voice. Alright, so now we'll just wait for the unit to time out, which it did. We can go ahead and test our buttons. Alright, Siri works. So if you go directly...
Sorry, Dean. I can't park the Siri.
If you go right to Siri voice recognition and that button does what it's supposed to do, then more than likely all the other buttons will, because it's the last button you program. But you still want to test them all. So go ahead and let's try volume. Yep, volume up, volume down. Okay, now that the steering wheel controls are working, let's go ahead and put it in reverse and see if the backup camera works. Alright, we have backup camera. We're looking at the ceiling because the back door is open, but no big deal. Now we'll go into the menu here. We'll select camera image. And we still have the image. Now we're going to go ahead and tuck all this stuff in the dash, get this car out of here. Alright, so let's go ahead and pair up the wireless CarPlay. So what we want to do is select phone, and then go to our Bluetooth settings on our phone. It'll go ahead and show the ILX 107, tap that. Go ahead and select pair, select OK on the screen, select allow. Now what it's doing is it's using the Bluetooth to pair the Wi-Fi. Once it's paired over Bluetooth, it's gonna disconnect. It's gonna be paired over Wi-Fi. So then it'll come up and say, use CarPlay. There it is. And there you go. You have wireless CarPlay. So say what you will about this particular radio, but wireless CarPlay is, you know, it's here to stay. Wireless Android is right around the corner, so this whole new wireless technology thing with Wi-Fi built into the radio, it's cool. A lot of grief has been spent on this radio so far about the price. And it's new technology. Right now, it's the only game in town that has wireless CarPlay. If you guys were alive back then and you bought a VCR possibly, or maybe when the DVD player first came out, hell, maybe even a Laserdisc. All those players were $1,000 if not more when they first came out. 6 months later, a little cheaper. A year, you could buy a VCR now for $19 if there is any anymore, and who buys DVD players for God's sakes? So it's just an evolution of the things to come. This will get cheaper in probably 3 to 6 months, but for right now, early adopters, as with everything, you pay the price. It's just pay to play. We're done with this guy. As Haley likes to say, on to the next one, on to the next one. All right, guys, we hope you enjoyed this. We'll see you later next time.
Bye.
Bye.